Hello, welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast, the channel for film reviews, discussions, and everything in between. I'm Chris Garner, joined with my co-host George Aldridge, and on today's Film Club, we're going to be bringing you our review on Edgar Wright's second film in the Three Flavours Cornetto Trilogy, Hot Fuzz. How Film Club works is that it's our smaller midweek show where we review whichever film was nominated at the end of our main show. Our main show from last week was our top 10 favourite comedy films of all time, and it was my turn to pick. And with Film Club, it's nice to sometimes pick a film that neither of us have seen or one of us haven't seen, so we can both get our opinions on it, stuff like that. Because a lot of the film clubs we've done in the past, we've both seen the film, we both know the film. But on an occasion like this, I hadn't actually seen Hot Fuzz. I hadn't seen any of the Cornetto trilogy actually, and at the end of last week's show, I basically said, look, pick a film from this, George, which one's the best? And you went with Hot Fuzz, so that's the one we're going to be reviewing today. I will be honest, I've obviously seen this film for the review, but I've only seen it the once. I know, George, you've probably seen it a good many times. You know all the lines, you know all the beats to it, so I'm going to do my best to remember as much of it as I can. I watched it a few days ago, so it's not as fresh in my mind as it was back then, but I'm sure I'll get through it somehow. So, we'll just jump straight into the review then. So, going into it, for me personally, it was kind of a weird experience. Like, I know all the hype that's been given to these films before, especially Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. World's End, not so much. I think a lot of fans, and I think you've said this as well, it's definitely the weakest one of the three. I haven't actually seen that one yet, but I have seen Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz for this review. So I didn't really know what to expect, really. It's when I'd seen clips of Shaun of the Dead and stuff, it always seemed like a comedy that it wasn't really my style of comedy, really. I like very much sort of slapsticky, silly humour, and the humour from Edgar Wright. I've seen Scott Pilgrim vs. the World as well, and the humour's very much the same. It's very quick, but it's very deadpan. It's very sort of not obvious, the joke, almost. It's difficult to explain, but so I knew the style that I was going to be, seeing going into this film. And honestly, like, if I'm going to give like initial opinions, Hot Fuzz, out of the two I've seen, Hot Fuzz is definitely my favourite. I think the humour definitely hits a lot more. And Shaun of the Dead I wasn't that keen on, but I think that Hot Fuzz is sort of, I don't know if it was a stronger story, but I think the character and definitely the supporting cast really, really helped this one compared to Shaun of the Dead, I would say.
Yeah, I think Shaun of the Dead was kind of this great introduction of when Edgar Wright and Nick Frost and Simon Pegg all worked on Space together. That became its cult hit, and then it was kind of like, here's a bit of money, what can you do, aka film-wise? So Shaun of the Dead was this low-budget, sort of almost indie comedy, which kind of took the world by storm, I'd happily say, and it was, a refreshing take on, not refreshing, but it was a different take on zombies, and then obviously that was big. Then Hot Fuzz came, and I think with Hot Fuzz is, to me, it seemed more of a passion project. I know obviously we don't know it, but I mean, if you look at some of the stuff where they watched over 100 cop films or something like that and prepped for it all, and I think Hot Fuzz kind of seemed like the be-all and end-all, and it was almost its own original. Whereas Shaun of the Dead was literally a spoof of the zombie genre. Hot Fuzz, although it laughs at police films, it's one of the best ones I've ever seen, and I feel Hot Fuzz is the stronger film altogether. And even as it unravels, you get a few complex things. I mean, we'll talk about spoilers, but for example, when Simon Pegg's put this intricate plan of everything they've done, this connects to that, that connects to this, and they will turn around at the end and go, no, it's because we wanted to win Best Town Award. And it's that kind of slap in the face, deadpan, and I love it for what it is. And then when it has action, it's great. And I think if you just compare it to Shaun of the Dead, it's one of them where I like Shaun of the Dead, I don't love it, but you can see the strengths in Hot Fuzz far, far better than the strengths in Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that was a thing where sort of Edgar Wright sort of adapted and evolved as a director in this field, but as you said, like, he'd worked on Space before, so he was no sort of stranger to directing or anything like that. But I do think that the jokes worked a lot more in this, and I don't know whether that's a fact that I'm more into action movies as a genre, so I sort of got it more than I did with Shaun of the Dead. But then again, I have seen a lot of zombie films and everything like that, but with Shaun of the Dead, I don't think that broke the mold all that much, whereas this one sort of did, and it was a satire on all that kind of stuff. For anyone who hasn't seen Hot Fuzz, the plot's basically you got Simon Pegg, who plays a London cop called Nicholas Angel, and like within the first opening montage, which is one of my favourite bits in the movie, it just shows like what an absolute badass he is. He's basically like an unstoppable 80s action hero in a cop's body, and then he's transferred to like, I think it's Gloucestershire, isn't it? He's transferred to a small English village, and he's like, he loves the thrill of the action of being a cop and working on the streets in London and stuff like that. So when he's like sent to this village, he thinks like, oh, I'm almost being demoted here. There's nothing to do, but then quickly, as the film goes on, you find out that there's a lot more to this village than it appears, and he gets caught up in this whole weird cult thing, and it goes on from there. I thought the plot was actually kind of genius to this film, but the thing is, I kind of wished that I didn't know about it, because I knew the twist, and as we said, there's going to be spoilers in this, that all the villagers are part of this cult for the greater good, you know, to keep the village going and prosperous and stuff like that. I knew about that already, unfortunately, so I think if I had have seen this film cold and I knew nothing, I think that that would have been even more hilarious and I wouldn't have seen it coming. But I mean, when it does happen, it's just absolutely hilarious. And like, if we're going to go into like the characters and stuff in a bit, not just Peg and Frost, but like everyone else, like the police and especially the villagers, are definitely sort of like the shining parts of this movie, I would say.
Oh yeah, and I mean, with the villagers, speaking of the greater good stuff, it's just the whole reason of everything. Where he's getting angry, he doesn't understand, but he knows why they're killing him because he's the journalist. Then it's like, you know, I forgot her name. It's the woman that gets killed at the end of the garden hedges.
Oh yeah.
He's like, what did she do? And they're like, she's leaving, and we can't have her win the award somewhere else. And it's
Yeah.
literally, it just slaps everyone in the face. Just think. So I remember the first time I saw it. I just started year 7. I was 11 years old, and it was just incredible to me. I mean, it just took me by storm, and then it was the whole granny thing on the bike. But it was the build up of all of it. It was so funny, so witty throughout. But then it's almost the ultimate slaps to your face. And as far as twists go, okay, this is a comedy. This isn't The Force Awakens. This isn't The Avengers. This isn't something where the world will blow up if the twist doesn't work. But it just worked so well, and you kind of laugh at how good the twist actually is.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if you've ever seen this series, but I'm a huge fan of dark humor, and it, like when it got to that cult bit, and it's Simon Pegg's trying to escape, and he sort of finds like all the bodies of like past victims and like skeletons and stuff like that. It really reminded me of something you'd see in like the League of Gentlemen. I don't know if you've ever seen that series. That was a BBC series written by Mark Gatiss and a few other
Um,
people as well.
I haven't seen it, but my dad loves it. And yeah, I know it's Matt Gass and the bloke from Benidorm, stuff like that.
Yeah,
I've seen bits. It's quite wacky in that.
yeah. There's like a bit in that with like a local shop, and they only like people from the village to go to that shop. Otherwise, if like an outsider comes, and they just like kill them in like really horrifically brutal ways. So it did remind me of bits like that. And with the supporting cast as well. Like, if I'm going to mention anyone, it has to be Timothy Dalton, who's just fantastic in this movie. And what I love about his character is that whenever like a crime happens and someone's killed in like a horrific way, he always drives past the crime scene and there's like a song playing on his radio like that references that killing. Like, I think someone gets burnt, don't they, or they're in an explosion, and he's listening to a song and it's like about fire or something like that, and he's just so smarmy, and you know that he's definitely the ringleader or part of it. But it's, I love when because Simon Pegg's trying so hard to uncover who's behind this, and Timothy Dalton's just eluding him at every turn, but it's brilliant. And then finally, when he has that face off with him at the end, and it's like, it's almost like Godzilla versus King Kong. It's like they're in this small model village, and like they're throwing each other around and into buildings and stuff. It's just epic. I love
It's
it. I love that bit.
it's just it's like, oh, is it like Bat Down or the Ginger Nut Gets It?
Yeah, yeah,
And I think it's just, obviously when you're 11, it's 10 times funnier than it is now, and it's still hilarious. But it's like, ah, he's ginger, and
yeah,
he wears glasses, and he's getting bullied by James Bond.
yeah.
And it's just the whole thing of when he flies over and gets impaled, and you
And
know,
still alive.
yeah, the duck. Oh, it's just brilliant. I mean, if they were to ever do a sequel, which they wouldn't, Hot
Mm.
Fuzz is one of the ones I'd always want to see. There's just so much you could do with it though. But as far as I mean, even writing wise, I mean Simon Pegg said a lot, and him and Edgar Wright, they write together, but they've had so many arguments, so many fallings out. They said writing these films together, that's what makes them better because their differences end up working. And I kind of like that duo where they clearly know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they both use them as their advantages. But some of it's so sharp and so precise. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but not Simon Pegg. Edgar Wright, he worked at a Summerfield, hence them going out the way to get Summerfield rights to destroy the store. And the store they use is the one he used to work at when he was younger. It's all shot in his hometown.
Oh no, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
And I was there like, that's incredible. And like for me, like I work at a supermarket, and you know, if I could chuck some knives around and kill people with toilets, like, I'm game for it, and that'd be hilarious. But it's just the fact that Summerfield, like British people know what Summerfield is.
Yeah.
Whereas like it translates to America, they wouldn't get it. Kind of like when they have like their like sort of Walmart stuff, we know vaguely what it is, but not like the details and the exquisite bits. But I just love the way how it's all done, the action, the granny with like the shotgun, and everything works, and it's just the constant build up of it where you get a death every so and so, like when they hack the guy's head off and the loud annoying woman, and then they make out they crash the car. I think he was the main guy out of Shameless. He's just like had a bit of a shave and cleaned himself up in this.
Yeah, and yeah, like with the violence especially, that was one thing I wasn't actually expecting to be quite as violent as it was, but that's not a bad thing, you know. I fucking love like violence in films. I think it's when it's done well, and to like, because with this film it's almost cartoony, isn't it? It's sort of like Kill Bill style. It's very over the top, and it just plays into the whole like wacky sort of action adventure of it, and like going back to what you were saying, like we probably won't get a sequel to this. As soon as this film ended, I was like, this could easily get a sequel. You can't really do it with Shaun of the Dead because that was a very self-contained movie, and I haven't seen the last one. The what's it called? Fucking hell, I'm just blanked.
World's End.
World's End, that's the one. Sorry, I haven't seen that, so I don't know if that has a similar ending. But I know the plot of that, and it doesn't seem like you could go anywhere after that. Whereas this one, I think there's so many like avenues you could take these characters afterwards, because Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, they just have an absolute awesome chemistry with each other, and that was started in Shaun of the Dead, and it's even better here with Frost's character, who's sort of he's kind of a lazy cop, isn't he? At the start, he's Jim Broadbent's son. And through sort of like Simon Pegg's teachings, he gets to the same stage as him, and he can stick up for himself a little bit more at the end. One thing I do want to say though about that, and it's kind of like a really weird bit of the film, and I think it could have been taken out of the film. It sort of suffered from Return of the King syndrome with like too many endings a little bit at the end. The bit where everything's okay, and then all of a sudden like a guy comes in and shoots Frost, doesn't he? And then he gets locked in that room with the bomb. Yeah. And then it like blows up the building, and then you sort of get another resolution afterwards, and he's completely fine. Like that bit was a bit weird for me. Like I think it could have ended like as soon as like Dalton just got impaled on the thing, Broadbent crashes into the tree with the swan in the back of the car, and then everything's sorted there. Like I think it did go on a little bit too long at that bit, but like with their like friendship in this, probably my favourite bit of the film. I know we were going to get into our favourite moments later, but I'll just throw mine out there now. It's all the references to like it's Point Break.
Yeah.
And Bad Boys 2. I haven't actually seen Bad Boys 2, but I've seen Point Break, and the bit where he like fires the gun up in the air from the movie, and then that sort of like pays off at the end when he's trying to shoot his dad and he can't, and Frost just like unloads the clip into the air and screams. I loved that bit. I thought that was that's probably my favourite scene in the film.
Oh, see, it's such a hard one. I mean, there's some great moments, but I think it will always be the whole end fight scene. Well, in a way, it's kind of an act my favourite. I just love the last 30 minutes. I could just keep watching on repeat. But if there's a favourite, it's when the evil granny is cycling down the street with an akimbo pistol, and then Nick Frost just opens the door,
Yeah.
and he just doesn't care. But it's just one of them where this film is. It's almost endless to me. Like, I mean, like Commode speaks about, you need to like laugh 5 times to see if a film's funny. That I've always gone by, to be fair, and it's very true.
Mm.
But this is almost like start to finish for me. And I think what kind of goes in well with it is Edgar Wright's editing style. Where if you look at some of his work, especially in Scott Pilgrim, he has this very fast sort of edit zoom where he zooms, cut, zoom, cut, zoom, cuts. So it kind of
Yeah.
saves you like 2 minutes worth of footage into 4 seconds, and they work so well. It's like when they're loading the guns towards the end, when they sort of go in, they get everything straight away from the police depot, then they go back out, and it's just great at how it works, and it works for the film, it works for him. But it'd been interesting to see how he did that moment, which you said earlier. But you can definitely see it in a lot of his work. He's done it in almost every film. He does it in Shaun of the Dead. He does it in World's End. But I think Hot Fuzz is the peak of all of it. And, you know, it's going to be very hard for me to find British comedies that can top it for the near future.
Yeah, it's very frantic, isn't it? The pace, and I think that when I saw Scott Pilgrim versus the World, I saw trailers for it and thought, oh, that looks interesting. Bought the DVD and it was nothing how I expected it. And to be honest, I kind of really dislike that film. I love the whole like video game aspect to it and visuals and the creative fights. I love that, but the actual humor itself, it really wasn't my style. Maybe now I've seen these and I've understand Edgar Wright more, I might enjoy it and appreciate it a little bit more. But it's still a style of comedy I'm trying to get used to. And you was talking about like really frantic pace of the editing, so frantic in fact that I didn't even know about Peter Jackson's cameo in this film that you told me just before our fair. So if you want to go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, at the start when he's in the office and they're going over his comedies, sorry, not comedies, his sort of like great police roles, is like once got stabbed by Mad Santa, and then it cuts to a flashback of Santa stabbing him, and it sort of zooms into the knife in his wrist. And it's Peter Jackson dressed up as Santa Claus stabbing him, and I think Edgar Wright's got mates at high places. Obviously, the most famous of all his crew is Tarantino. Those two are best buds. You can see why in the kind of violence area of
Oh
it.
yeah.
And I think writing wise, but then it's kind of there like no one knew about it till afterwards, and then it kind of came out that apparently he was pissed off that he's only in it for like a few seconds, rather than like a whole scene of footage he supposedly shot. This one, like even the cameos like that. I mean, you look at the opening scene when I think does it start off with forgot his name, Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah, Martin Freeman. Yeah, he's
Or,
the one behind the desk, isn't he, who sends him off to Gloucestershire.
yeah, and then it's like, oh, you want to take this higher? And he's like, yeah. So then they get the next guy down, which
Bill Nye.
Bill Nye, yeah. And then do they get the third one after Bill Nye? Because they go up like 3 different people. Then it's kind of this neat ending where they come back at the end and they're like, can we have you again? London's gone to the shits. He's like, no.
Well, I know that Bill Nye is the highest one out of the entire department, but I know, yeah, it goes through 3 different people, isn't it? I can't remember who the first guy is, but I know it goes to Martin Freeman, and then I think it goes to
Bill Nye after
Bill
him.
Nye, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that, like, I did not know that Martin Freeman was in this movie. I remembered that Bill Nye was in it. I think I told you off air before that, like, when you're at school and stuff, and it's like the last day of term, and people bring films in. Someone brought in Hot Fuzz, and I was only sort of casually watching it, but I remember vividly seeing like Bill Nye in there, so I knew that was coming. But I didn't know Martin Freeman was in it. And like going back to the whole Peter Jackson thing, like I think you said that they filmed the entire scene, but when it was like cut down and in the film it's like 3 seconds or something, it's like really quick. But I think cameos like that work, like, because you get a reaction like I had, like when you first told me, like it's that surprise, like I did not know that was him. But now it's like almost like an awesome little bit of trivia in case people don't know. And I think that works better, like, because it could so easily have been like, a cameo that's just so in your face and so obvious that it just sort of detracts from the joke. But I think if you find out about it afterwards, it adds to the enjoyment of it a bit more, and you can sort of go back and then watch it again and go, oh yeah, that's Peter Jackson.
Yeah, and I think these are the films where I talk about the strong writing. With repeat viewings, I think maybe more on Shaun of the Dead.
Mm.
You pick up so much more. I think Shaun of the Dead, at the start of it, they name all their plans, what they're going to do for the day, go for the pint at the Winchester, go away and pick her up, stuff like that. The whole opening 2 minutes or whatever the conversation is at the pub at the start of Shaun of the Dead is the actual narrative of the film from the zombies attack. And it's these really eloquent things that that Edgar Wright fits into the films. Hot Fuzz, he does it, but it's not as blatant. But The World's End, another one where the opening 5 minutes is actually the narrative of the whole film. and it's really clever. It's just they're one of them films where you pick things up the more you watch them. Again, and that's to its credit though.
Yeah, and I think that I know it's called the Cornetto Trilogy, but really one thing that also connects them is like most scenes take place in a bar, don't they? Like obviously Shaun of the Dead, that plays a big part into it. Hot Fuzz, that's where all the police go, and then there's a big shootout in there at the end when he says that that's like the next place they need to take when they're sort of like clearing the entire village out of all the, the villagers, and then really the entire plot of the third one takes place in a bar, isn't it? Because it's a pub crawl, I think the third one is, isn't it? And I don't know if it's aliens attack or robots attack or something attacks them, and they just have to sort of survive, isn't it? I think that's the third one.
Yeah, they do 13 pubs in one night, and then it just kind of goes like mental.
Yeah, as I said, like I haven't seen that one yet, but I was trying to get it watched before this, so I could sort of do like a sort of sweeping trilogy review of them. But as I said, I've only seen the first two. Repeat viewings, I definitely would recommend with these films, I think, and I'll probably will go back and, if not watch Shaun of the Dead again, I'll definitely watch Hot Fuzz, because I think, as you said, there's things that you'll probably pick up more, or lines that you may have missed, because as I said, it is very frantic. The lines are delivered very quickly, and the humour's very sort of quick, and you may not immediately pick up on the joke. It's very deadpan for most of the time. Sometimes it's sillier and more obvious, which is, as I said, that's the humour I'm into. Like, I'm not going to say that it's a bad comedy film if it's not particularly my style of comedy. I very much enjoyed Hot Fuzz, if I'm going to sort of like round it off, give my final thoughts on it. I thought it was a good film. It's not a comedy film I would particularly have gone out of my way to see if we haven't like done a review of this, but I'm glad I've seen it. Like all three of them, like I know I need to see the third one, but all of these films you'll be in a conversation with someone and you'll ask them what their favourite comedy films are, and usually like 9 times out of 10 they will mention Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead, and every time when someone says that I'll go like, yeah, I haven't seen any of them. The look on their faces is priceless. It's like a wide-eyed stare and then their jaw sort of hits the floor and it's like, you've never seen Shaun of the Dead or you've never seen Hot Fuzz. Well, now I can say that I've seen them, and I think that Hot Fuzz definitely is one that I'll watch a few more times, and I think I'll appreciate it more with repeat viewings.
Oh, definitely, and I think if I say my final was, it's one of my favourite comedies, obviously, as everyone knows, but also it's kind of one of the highlights of that British comedy to me, and it's a sign of what's to come from both Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg. I mean, this arguably was the leapfrog for them. Edgar Wright moved on to Scott Pilgrim, should have been Ant-Man. Obviously, this was just after Mission Impossible 3 for, I forgot his name, Simon Pegg, but this kind of launched his sort of, I mean, without these he wouldn't be writing the new Star Trek films. It's stuff like that where they really boosted his career, the Cornetto Trilogy. But repeat viewing wise, it's great. If you've never seen this film, you'll probably like it. I mean, my dad, he's always said he hated Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, then he sat down and watched the Cornetto Trilogy, he loved them. So it's just one of them, and they're good fun, and they kind of represent the sort of smaller villages. I mean, I'm from a town. It's not little, but it's some parts of it are old as shit, and it kind of reminds me of that. So I've always laughed at that.
Yeah, I'm from a village myself, and like watching this with like all the weird characters and villages, it did remind me sort of my place. But like that being said, I will just say it is a very unique style of humour. It's not to everyone's taste, and we were speaking about this off air, and as you said in this as well, there's a lot of jokes in it that I think a British audience will sort of get more. But I know that Shaun of the Dead and this one have done really well in the US and other places as well. So I think the humour's definitely there. But as you said, there's like a few little details like the summer fields and like some of the dialogue and mannerisms of the characters I think are sort of exclusive almost to a British audience, and I think they'll get it more. But as I say, like I really enjoyed the film, and I'll definitely go back and watch it a few other times. And also, weirdly, and I never thought I'd be saying this, it's almost made me kind of want to see Bad Boys 2. I've said before I really dislike Michael Bay, but if it's good enough for Nick Frost in this film with Point Break, then I may have to check it out at some point. And I know that a lot of people say that Bad Boys 2 is probably one of Michael Bay's best. I haven't actually seen the first one either yet, so I don't know if Michael Bay did the first one as well, or if he just took up the directing with the second one. But I may have to check that out as well. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing from this movie. But yeah, so that's basically our review on Hot Fuzz. I think I've said everything I can on it. I think you have too. So be sure to rate, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you thought of Hot Fuzz, and let us know what you thought of any of the Cornetto trilogy. Do you like it? Don't you like it? Be sure to get involved and comment below. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/cinemasavvy. We're on Twitter at cinema_savvy, and we're also on letterboxd.com/cinema_savvy. So get involved, stick with the channel. We're bringing you loads more reviews as the weeks go on. I think in the next couple of weeks we'll get more new releases now, and we can get back to reviewing new films that come out, and we won't be relying on top 10 lists all the time, but we'll still be bringing you those as well. So yeah, thank you very much for listening, and see you next time.